Don't call me white. Don't call me white.
Alright, let's end this ridiculous stalemate on the climate debate. Do you believe that this is an issue that we gotta face? Well, I don't really give a shit. Yes or no, we need to be able to find a shared vision of the future and a policy or two to rally behind to get to that future. Believers, you all want to minimize emissions. They want to do the best they can to get fossil fuels into redundancy, to the point where they don't mind blowing fossil fuels to prevent the burning of fossil fuels, if that makes any sense. Non-believers, you guys want to continue to expand the energy market and don't want to sacrifice jobs and watts for some emission panic that you don't believe in. There is an almost entirely ignored energy alternative that can provide both the necessary reliable wattage, stable industrial jobs, and reduction on emissions. And that energy source is nuclear. Nuclear is underinvested into to a criminal amount. Let's just look at this. Let's look at this bullshit. Fuck you, Jane Fonda. Oh my fuck! Look at that fucking. As the lowest emissions, a reliable, continuous source, unlike its emissions-free alternatives that rely heavily on a consistent weather pattern as we go towards an inconsistent weather situation, assuming that the climate change is right. I don't want to be taking sides here. Nuclear energy has by far and away the most room for investment. Just look at this bullshit. This is a balanced scale. Even relatively little in terms of raw materials is required. It's not like we gotta go dig up the earth as we do for coal. Well, a little earth. And unlike the other emission-free, reliable alternative, a hydroelectric, they're easily set up and taken down and don't write off entire sections of land, often very prime farmlands, and occasionally putting communities at risk of a little more risk than nuclear tends to. To say nothing of the difficulty in finding appropriate locations in the first place. But you don't want to plant near your house, you might say. That's just your ignorance speaking. But what about Fukushima? Yeah, well, what about Onagawa? It was not making the news. That's what it was doing. Fukushima run right doesn't make the news. Fukushima run wrong and hit by a tsunami kills nobody. Like that is the biggest incident that people are panicking about, because the last one happened before most of us were born. Nuclear energy is the safest energy, bar none. But what if somebody blows it up? I hear you say, terrorism. Look to the skies. Yeah, well, they've had that pretty well covered since like the 70s, I think. These aren't just any old building. Like I said, the one survived the earthquake and tsunami already. And nobody knew about it because it didn't make the news because it was fine. But what about the containers? Like, were they the toxic waste containers? They'll crack and leak and like, that stuff lasts forever. No, in fact, it doesn't. That's why it decays. To say nothing of modern methods, not wasting much, if any. What about the alternatives? What about their waste? Their waste that does not decay. What about the containers cracking? What about wasting our money on shit that can't withstand the coming increase in storm intensity? Just driving up the waste that we have, because we're going to need to replace those solar panels that get bombarded by hail and rocks from the wind and whatever else. Meanwhile, nuclear, safe, reliable, secure. Caring about cars is almost entirely a distraction. Let's get the grid to the safest, most powerful energy with the greatest untapped potential. Let's push our governments to be the innovators of the next energy source, as it is also the only energy that will power us into an interplanetary society. Or we can keep bickering about the existence of some petty problem the shift would incidentally go a long way to solving. Along with establishing Kekistan as a world superpower, where everyone will have to buy our innovations. Now look, I can show you comparative stats all day long, showing nuclear is the best along pretty well every metric. And we aren't even very good at it, especially compared to what should theoretically be possible. I know you can only justify sitting on the toilet for so long, and I have another scientific solution to the problem that is also the obviously awesome next step in the forefront of business innovation. Especially with things like CRISPR coming out. Ooh, sorry, a little bit of a spoiler. Check that video out on that policy on its own, because I know you people don't have any attention span or ability to agree with more than one thing at a time, and that's if we're being optimistic. Remember to wipe front to back?
Always wipe front to back. And remember, never ever believe someone when they tell you that shaving your pubic hair will rid you of crab infestation.
Have a great day. Praise Keck. Fuck 'em.